What is the book of Esther? Well, Esther, not, of course, written by Esther herself, the credit of that traditionally goes to her foster father, Mordecai, but this 5th century document is very significant in that while Esther herself, this was her Persian name, her actual birth name was Hadassah, which means star, was the central figure in God's dealings with Israel at this time while they were still living in modern-day Babylon. Now, going all the way back to the book of Exodus and 1 Samuel, the reason why we ought to know the background of this book is important because Israel had a historical enemy known as the Amalekites. They attacked the women, children, the crippled, and those who couldn't, of course, defend themselves when they were just leaving the land of Egypt and headed towards the Promised Land. This unprovoked attack was, of course, not just their first battle as a nation led by Joshua, but it was also the start of a warning that they were given from God himself that he would be at war with them if they refused to let Israel live in peace, and they would receive judgment after that. And when Saul, the first anointed king of Israel, took power, 400 years of those second chances had ultimately been exhausted, and he was ordered to wipe them out, to completely drive them out of the land down to the last man, woman, and child. And we understand why, given historical hindsight. Because when Saul spared the family of Agag, who was the king of the Amalekites at this time, his descendants went on to produce a man who was known as the Book of Esther reports, a man by the name of Haman, who was an Agagite, a descendant of King Agag. Now, when the political antics of Haman got to the point where he was demanding people to worship him every time he walked down the street, he heard a rumor, he didn't see it himself, but heard a rumor that one Jew wouldn't bow down to him on these daily parades and started to orchestrate a political endeavor to exterminate everyone of his ethnicity. So we see why, again, God wasn't going to deal with these people any longer. So, noting that, again, for the sake of political clout, he ended up causing 400 more years of having to be neighbors with rabid terrorists, Haman eventually served as the last-ditch effort of the Amalekites to exterminate Israel. Now, this is a historical record and meant to be read as that in the genre of literature that it was. It doesn't approve of everything that has taken place, but simply recording what happened historically. And it's noting importantly as well that despite the fact the name of God isn't mentioned once in the book of Esther, it emphasizes God's involvement in the affairs of his people more directly than other books, for example, like the books of the Kings. His involvement was in keeping the biblical promise, not just to preserve Israel against her enemies, but also the promise that he made to the Amalekites after now 800 years of second chances for them to live at peace with Israel, and ultimately showed that they were crazy people. It's also worth noting again that with Esther being the central figure as a woman, in the ancient world this was unheard of, yet the modern-day festival of Purim is what celebrates this historical event, which again we can verify archaeologically and from other pieces of literature, not even in the Jewish scriptures, that would also mention Vashti, the former queen of Persia and the wife of the king, who of course is featured in this account. That's what the book of Esther is about.